So Angel of Ruins, 5 generic, 2 white. No, these are actually in the main set. It's just they originally came from Commander. We're not actually going to talk about any of the actual Commander cards. Yeah. Most of them came from Commander. Some of them came from like older sets. Like I think there's like a card that came from like Urza's Legacy stuff. Okay. So Angel of the Ruins. It is a 5 generic 2 white artifact creature angel flying. When Angel of the Ruins enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Plane cycling 2. It's a 5/7. So most of the time you're not going to cast this. It's just like there to like combo with like the reanimation stuff. Because there's a few like ways to like reanimate a creature from a graveyard. I had it rated as a C. I think it's mostly like I think if you're playing this, like you probably need to have ramp or like reanimation, or you're just treating it as a 2 mana plains. But I think it's like fine to play it as like a 2 mana plains most of the time. It kind of helps with like again the whole flooding issue because this is a 7 mana 5/7, and there's like I mentioned before, there's a lot of like targets for like an artifact and enchantment targets for this, so it'll probably be really good in like a third of your games or whatever. Like you could cast it, and it messes your opponent up. It's also an artifact, which is all right. Decree of Justice. It is a XX 2 generic double white sorcery. Create X 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Cycling to 2 generic white. When you cycle Decree of Justice, you may pay X. If you do, create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Well, this used to be a rare. Like it used to be a rare, and now it's like an uncommon because it's just you can tell how like the power level has like dropped down so much since like it was like first printed. Um, basically like you're going to need to have like the floor on this is going to be like okay, it's a 6 mana 4/4 flyer, or it's an 8 mana make 2 4/4 flyers. Some dream scenario where it's like 10 mana make 3/4/4s. You do also have the option of being like, okay, a 5 mana cycle it, make 2/1/1s to like chump block or whatever. I don't know. I think this card has definitely dropped a lot since like it's definitely not Starnheim Unleashed or like gonna be like realistic or whatever. It's no Starnheim Unleashed, but I mean I put it as like a C minus, but like most of the time, I just think like this card is not going to be what you want unless you have like maybe a ton of Eldrazi spawn or something. But I don't know. Just doesn't. Yeah. Distinguished Conjurer, 1 generic, 1 white, creature, human, wizard. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and then 4 generic white, tap, exile another target creature controlled, and returns to the battlefield. Again, I made like a well maybe not I didn't make it, but like I made like a really I think it was like Mistveil or Miss Meadow Witch or something. Miss Meadow Witch. Yeah. It's definitely not Miss Meadow Witch. I guess Miss Meadow Witch you have to pay white and blue. So it's a little bit more restrictive, but this also does return the creature to the battlefield immediately. Sometimes that matters, but like there is like some support for this from, or at least I saw like another card I think in the set that was kind of similar to this. It was sort of like implying that maybe there's like a reason that you would want to like blink your own creature in this set. like I guess at the very minimum, like it makes it so that if your opponent has removal and you have 5 mana open, they actually have to they have to they have to target that guy. They have to target that creature first. But the fact that it costs like 5 mana to do this, it's like it's very costly, and I don't know if like how you're going to be wanting to like spend your turns, right? Look at yeah, I mean there's like 59 theoretically ETBs that you could reuse. Well, maybe not the landfall guy, but or yeah, I guess watchdog. You can also use it on like a creature that was targeted by Dog Umbra or the become or whatever, like the other insignificance card. Yeah, I mean, there's like I guess enough ETBs. Maybe if there's like you have energy, I think that might be like the best thing to do is to like blink your energy creature just to make more energy. But yeah, there's like I guess enough ETB support for this card theoretically, but like you'd have to spend 5 mana, which kind of hurts. I put it a C minus because it's so expensive. Do it. All right, Orum's Chant, white, instant kicker, white. Target player can't cast spells this turn. If the spell is kicked, creatures can't attack this turn. I put this as like a D minus. I don't think you should be playing this in limited at all. Like, I guess there might be some fringe situation where you're like fringe situation where you're going to like time, I guess, quote unquote, time walk them. I mean, they still get to draw cards. You know, they still get to draw a card. I don't know. They can still activate ability. I guess maybe activating ability doesn't matter as much if they can't cast spells, but it's not really time walk because again they get to untap. They can have mana to do instants when it's. I mean, because like the play pattern with this is like you do it on their upkeep so that like they can't like cast more creatures or attack you that turn. But I don't really like, point really in that limited. It's like really intended as like a combo protection type card. But like you want to like combo off in constructed, and then it forces them to waste counterspell on this. Otherwise, you get to combo off. All right, Recruiter of the Guard. 2 generic and a white creature, human soldier. When Recruiter of the Guard enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less. Reveal it, put in your hand, and shuffle. All right, let's like look really quickly at creatures that have mana value, or not mana value, but toughness less than the. Actually a decent number of creatures that you can hit with this card. So I would say the value of this card obviously goes up like the more like really good targets you have for it. I guess you can get your other recruiter to guard too. Um, put that as a C plus or whatever, maybe B. I'll put it as a C plus, maybe B minus if you have some really good things to get with it. I mean, it is like a tempo hit because like you're playing a 3 mana 1/1, but like again, just the flexibility is gonna be good. You can get your Reform, which is also like a new to modern card. New to modern card. And I guess the Recruiter Guard works well with the Distinguished Conjurer because you can blink it. Okay, combo. Alright, Savine's Reclamation, 2 and a white sorcery. Return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. The spell was cast from a graveyard. You may copy the spell and may choose a new target for the copy. Flashback 4 and a white. I had this as like a C or whatever, but like it just depends on like it's not like insane or whatever. Like it's basically gonna be like recommissioned the first time, and then you count it the second time, and it's like double recommission. It won't add counters, like recommission added the counter and stuff, but it's like it does have like a. You are gonna need to have like enough like permanents that you actually want to give back to have mana value 3 or less. That's another question to ask with that card, but yeah, I guess Decree of Justice should be really close to like a D plus at this point. Alright, so deep analysis. 3 in a blue sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards. Flashback 1 in a blue. Pay 3 life. I think I have this as like a B minus. It is kind of slow. You're gonna need like I think the best case scenario really is like you mill yourself and then you pay the flashback and then it's like, oh, it's like you just drew 2 cards for like quote unquote free, or if you just milled yourself and just happened to get into your graveyard that way. But I mean, this is like the type of card that like sometimes you see it like in like like I think it was like an Eternal Masters, right? It's like a card that's like reasonable to like play in like old sets or whatever because it's like still reasonably playable, and I don't know. I think it's still like decent here. Like maybe it's gone in a bit power creep, but this format actually doesn't seem like that bad. Like I think if you put this into like say OTJ, this would be like a C minus or something. I don't know. I think plan the actual. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Like plan the heist is actually okay. No, maybe it's more like a C plus analysis. What is a C plus? Estred's Invocation 2 in the blue enchantment. You may have Estred's Invocation enter the battlefield as a copy of the enchantment you control, except it has at the beginning of your upkeep you may exile this enchantment. If you do, return it to the battlefield under owner's control. I mean, I guess we can like look at enchantments that have enter the battlefield abilities and that, but because that's like where I get rid of. Oh, it's gonna be confusing because I guess so. There's like some enchantments you could blink here, like not the Glasswing Grace, but um, I don't know, it feels like it's gonna be very narrow. Like yeah, there's some enchantments where you could blink them to. You could make it a copy and then blink it to like get like the ETB again, like the Path of Annihilation, maybe like your Must Have Departed. Um, actually, wait. Oh, I guess if you blink like if you chose Esther's Invocation as a bestow, and then you enchanted something with it, and then I don't know, like there might be like some situation where I guess you could like exile the bestow and then target something else with the new enchantment after it came back into play, but I don't know. I just put it as a D because I don't know. This part feels like very situational situation where you want to play this and limited. But I don't know. Maybe you have like a bunch of amazing enchantments. It's actually better than I think it is, but I just don't think like copy enchantment was like good even in like Wilds of Eldraine. Like I think those like the Mirror Mate and no that was in. All right. So Kappa Cannoneer, Artifact Creature, Turtle Warrior, Improvise, Ward 4. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Kappa Cannoneer and it can't be blocked this turn. So Ward 4, like Improvise means is gonna probably come out like turn 5, turn 4 or something. Ward 4 means it's like almost like unkillable. Like they would need to use 7 mana to kill it with like the black creature destroy, and you know, I mean it's actually a 5/5, right? Because it gets a counter the first turn to end of the battlefield. It counts itself. So like this is actually a very fast clock if you have like other artifacts. Like you just start like assuming you just play an artifact the next 3 turns or whatever, it kills them. Like assuming that, but maybe that's like magical Christmas land. I had it as like a B plus because that's probably not going to happen all the time that you like play Capua Cannoneer and like play 3 artifacts and kill them, like 3 artifacts over kill them with it. But that's a possible play pattern with this card. Alright, Reef Worm 3 and a blue creature worm. When Reef Worm dies, create a 3/3 blue fish creature token with. When this creature dies, create a 6/6 whale creature token with. When this creature dies, create a 9/9 blue kraken creature token. I had this as like a C because I think there's like enough ways of like you could just bounce the token or exile the token and then they don't get like the 6/6 or the 9/9. It's obviously better if you have like sack outlets so that like you can get the death trigger on your on like the when you want to have the death trigger, because like if you're just like waiting for your opponent to like attack you and then you like block and then like, that might not necessarily happen, and like maybe they're just killing you with flyers and then then they're not going to like attack into you on the ground and let you block with this. It definitely seems like a lot better like in the dream scenario where they like attack into it and they let you keep getting the bigger creature, but I think it's just gonna really actually gonna like less good than it. Alright, Shrieking Drake blue, creature Drake flying. When Shrieking Drake enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Uh, Again, unless you're playing it with like those ETB creatures we mentioned before, you just shouldn't play this at all because like it's not a very good payoff. Like, because it's a 1/1 flyer. Like you're basically just it's just like kind of like bad nurturing pixie, and even that card wasn't necessarily like that great. But like look at like nurturing pixie if anybody remembers that card. Yeah. I don't know. Like, there'd have to be like some really aggressive deck where you really want it, or you just like reuse. I guess it can save a creature from like a dog umbra, and this I put as a D. I don't think it's like very good. Like a 1/1 for 1. All right, and then Buried Alive, 2 generic and a black sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards. Put them into your graveyard, then shuffle. This is like. This is card disadvantage. So you need like a very specific strategy to want to play this, but so I put it as a D minus. Just leave it for like people to play in constructed. Like maybe you just have like a ton of like graveyard reanimation, sure, but I don't think this is actually like really good. And yeah, you have to search for 3 creature cards. You can't just like say, oh, I'm gonna search for 3 land. Alright. Heroic Son of Yawgmoth, 4 generic 3 Pyrexian black mana, legendary creature Pyrexian horror minion. Lifelink, for each black in a cause, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 +1/+1 counter on Kyrix, Son of Yawgmoth. So you really want to play this in like a heavy black deck, right? So that like you're getting repeated counters on it. There is like proliferate and I guess other ways to put counters on it. There's like some bestow stuff that like is good with like a lifelink body. Um You could definitely go really deep on like how much life you want to like lose to this card. Yeah, you could like just play it on turn 4 or whatever, pay 6 life, and then I guess it's really bad if they like response. It feels like it's gonna take like a lot of work to make it good, so I just put it as like a C. There's probably gonna be some screenshot where somebody turned this into an 11/11 because it's like mono black, but I don't know. I just don't know that's out. All right, Nadir's Nightblade, 2 generic black creature elf warrior. Excuse me. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a 1/3. I think this goes up in value the more like Eldrazi spawn you have. It's kind of like a situational blood artist in a way because like it only triggers off tokens leaving the battlefield. Yes, I mean I don't know. Yes, I understand it. It says leave the battlefield, so maybe you bounce your token to ninjutsu. So there's no ninja set, but like I mean it has a better body than blood artist. Or I don't know. I'm just putting this as like a C minus because I think it's probably gonna play out more like a D plus. Like people just play it'll like drain for like 2 life or something like that, and then it's just not gonna like contribute a lot to the board because it's a 1/3 for 3. It's definitely not Blood Artist. Like Blood Artist like is actually like really changes the way that like opponent like the way that trades can happen. This also only triggers on your stuff. Also, unlike Blood Artist. The Blood Artist triggers on everything. Alright, Ophiomancer, 2 generic and the black creature human shaman. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with touch. I remember this card, and it's a 2/2. I remember this card actually used to like be in like cubes and stuff. Cause it's like really it like causes it definitely changes like play in a way, play patterns in a way. Like it's good with like creature sack outlets because it triggers the beginning of every upkeep. So if you have like a sack outlet, you can like just sack it before your opponent's turn. Like there's like things you can do. You can be like, oh, I make the snake or whatever. And I mean, it's also like kind of stops your opponent from like ever attacking you if you like have that in play. Like you could have some like again some you could do some things just with like sack outlets or and again forces your opponent like not to be able to like attack you on the ground. I don't know. It's not like great like it's not like a great effect or whatever, but I think it's like it does make like a noticeable effect on like the gameplay, so I'm willing to put it as like a C plus, but it might be closer to like C at this point just because of like power creep. Alright, Toxic Deluge, 2 generic and a black sorcery. The additional cost to cast a spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until a turn. Now this is like really, I mean this is like a, like a commander staple. This is like a commander staple, like, I mean, because it's just so cheap to like, control a board. There's gonna be some situations, obviously, like you draw a late game and you can't actually like pay the life to kill everything, but like early on, or there's definitely some board states where like you could have a 4/4 and your opponent just has like 2/2s and 3/3s, and you're like, okay, I pay 3 life, and then you have the only creature on board. But like the fact that it only costs like 3 mana is like really good. Because it like lets you like board wipes that like it just lets you like do some other spell the same turn. To after you cast a deluge. I had it like as a B plus because of like the low mana cost and the scalability. Right, victimize, 2 generic and a black sorcery. Choose target creature two target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice the creature. If you do, return the chosen cards of the battlefield tapped. So This is one of the enabler. No, one of the, this is like one of the enablers for the whole cycling reanimation stuff. And it's also in the format with Eldrazi spawn. You could be like, okay, I cycle my Eldrazi or my Artifact Angel, and then sack an Eldrazi spawn to like bring both of those Eldrazi back or whatever. You don't get the cast triggers, but you'll have like a 7/7 or two 7/7s in play or whatever, and that's like the kind of dream scenario with this card. Um, so like I think in the right deck it's like a B minus because of like you're just gonna it's just gonna be really broken like when you are like reanimating 7/7s or but like I also understand like there's gonna be some number of times it's like a dead card in your hand. So, all right, Curse of Mirror 2 and a red artifact. Tap, add red. When as Curse of Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn except as haste. So, I mean, this is mostly like for EDH. It's like, I mean, I think in limited is like the best case scenario is like you play the Cursed Mirror and copy you copy an Eldrazi with like Annihilator, and then you attack them. I mean, it also does get like the ETB ability of the creature, so you could copy a creature with an ETB. I'm just gonna put it as like a C because I don't think it's like really that exciting outside of like oh you get some really game swingy copy first turn. It's like it's a 3 mana rock. It only taps a red. Alright, Fledgling Dragon, 2 and a 2 red creature dragon flying. As long as 7 or more cards in your graveyard, Fledgling Dragon gets +3/+3 and has red. Fledgling Dragon gets +1/+0 and so it becomes Shivan Dragon. I think this is dependent on how quickly you fill your graveyard, but the fact that it's a 4 mana 2/2 flyer until you fill your graveyard makes me a D. Like something you just don't want to really like mess around with unless you have like a lot of ways. Turbo Mill or you draw this like late game and right away. 4 mana 5/5 flyer. Draw late game with the threshold. Alright, Lelia the Blade Reforged, 2 generic in the red, legendary creature Spirit Warrior Haste. Whenever Lelia the Blade Reforged attack exile the top card of your library, you may play that card this turn. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile from your library and are graveyard, for the +1/+1 counter Lelia 2/2. So this is like a card that actually gets played in like Power Cube. Like a good card in Power Cube. So it's like a A minus in my book because it's just like okay, you get to attack. So it's a haste. It's haste, and you attack. It's gonna be attacking as a 3/3, and then maybe you don't play the card that you exiled because like you're playing it on 3 mana or no play. But like the next turn you like attack and then 4/4, and you also get to like play a card potentially from the top of your library. Maybe it's just a land or something. And free real estate. I mean, there's like some other cards that could. I think there's some card that like synergize with this, like exiling cards from your library graveyard, but like this is just good enough, like on its own. Like if you play this early, it'll like snowball pretty quickly because you would be um making it bigger with every tag and also like getting the extra card plays, the attack ability. So Meltdown, X, and a red sorcery. Destroy each artifact with mana value X or less. This is basically sideboard only. Because it has like way too much potential to not do anything. But I guess there's gonna be some games where it's just absurd. Like you go up against the black-red affinity deck and you just like completely blow them out. And like maybe even you have like a big artifact and then you choose Meltdown for like a lower mana value than anything you have, and then it's like one-sided board wipe. But Right, there's 2 Cascade cards coming in. Meteoric Mace, 4 generic, 2 red artifact equipment. Equipped creature has +4/+0 and has trample. Equip 4 Cascade. So people are familiar with like Discover. Cascade is just like the worst version of Discover because you like if you don't cast the card, it goes on the bottom of your library. Um, I had it rated, I think, as like a C or whatever, just because like it is like an expensive Cascade thing. I don't know. I don't think it's that quite as good as the other Cascade card. It does make like I guess the equipped creature is like something they just can't ignore. As is like the plus side of it, like because like +4/+0 and trample, like they can't ignore it. So it's like you could just start throwing it until like Eldrazi spawn and make like a 4/1, but it is like a pretty hefty equip cost. Like as like late game, maybe okay with like, spending entire turn, not the entire spending like a bunch of your mana on like the equip, but I don't know. I think you're just kind of just hoping like the Cascade is really good, and I mean since it is a 6-drop, it's Cascade into a 5-drop. It's really so this is like the other card we're talking about was the Annoyed Altasaur 5 generic 2 green creature dinosaur reach trample cascade is 6/5. I mean this is like Pauper playable or whatever, you know, it's like it's played in Pauper and stuff. It's just like a really big body. I mean it's understated. I mean it'd probably be like a 7/7 have the cascade, but I had it rated as a 6 as a C+. I mean, mostly just because it's really expensive, but again, 7-mana Cascade probably hit like it could hit some really expensive stuff. But again, the randomness of Cascade it hit like a 2-drop. Alright, branching evolution to generic and a green enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. Uh I think like my evaluation of this card is like based on like the Bestow archetype, but I'm just gonna put this as like a C minus to C. I think like it just depends on how many. I'm gonna put it as C minus, but like I think it depends on like how many like cards you actually get that have like a lot of +1/+1 counters. There's obviously some cards that are like insane with this, like the Faithful Watchdog becomes a 6/6, but like most of the time like I get it's like doubling your adapts is that really broken. Maybe it's a C, but like again you just need to have like a critical mass of like +1/+1 counters. This would be like really like worth spending 3 mana in the card on it. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody will say it's basically Railway Roller, basically Railway Roller, but Kappa. Priest of Titania, 1 generic, 1 green creature, elf druid, tap, add 1 green for each elf on the battlefield, 1/1. There's exactly 5 elves in the set. So, like, maybe tapping for like 2. Not likely. I had it like, as a D. It just depends on how much you really want. Like, I think it's like 2 mana, 1/1 mana dork. Then only taps for green is not really super exciting nowadays. Right, Sylvan Safekeeper, green, creature, human, wizard. Sacrifice a land, target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. Now, this card is like, it's actually kind of like deceptively powerful because it's like, it forces your opponent to like focus removal on like they can't even like remove your stuff like as long as you have extra lands to play, but there I mean there's obviously a trade-off that you can't just keep sacking all your land to like protect your things, right? Like you will like fall behind like if they're like you play this out on turn 1, they're like okay I galvanic this shard and you sack your land. It's like this is like the type of card you play after like you know you're like pretty content with like the amount of land you have, or maybe you can play like mid game where it's like sacking a land isn't like big cost for like protecting your creature. So I'm like willing to like start it as like a C plus. It may end up playing out like really well. I know this card's very annoying to play against H, but that's like kind of a different thing. You have like ways of like replaying lands from your graveyard and stuff. But... Alright, Wirewood Symbiote, green, creature, insect. Return an elf you control to its owner in hand, untap target creature, activate only once each turn. 1/1. Similar to like the other thing, but this is like a D minus because there's just not enough elves to support this. It's gonna be 1 mana 1/1. Alright, Brea, Ethereum, Shaper, white, blue, black, red, legendary artifact creature human. When Brea, Ethereum, Shaper enters the battlefield, create the 2/1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 2 generic, sacrifice 2 artifacts, choose 1. Brea deals 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. You gain 5 life. So let's see. So we had like a card that was similar to this that was really insane in like Modern Horizons 2 had like Brea as Apprentice. This card was absolutely insane. This one is pretty good. Like if you can cast it, like the hard mana cost is kind of a pain, and then there's not like a lot of ways to like fuel it, like with artifacts. Like if you have like that Warren Soul Tender maybe, but I mean you can fuel it the first time with the own Thopters it provides you or whatever. But I'm just saying like later on, like where you're gonna get like the artifact fodder for Brea the issue. But I mean, I think like based on like the mana cost being really hard, I had it as like a D plus. There may be somebody who goes really deep with this card and they have the ability to both pay the mana for this and make a ton of like artifact fodder, but I don't know. And then there's Kalia of the Vast, one generic red, white, black legendary creature, human cleric, flying. Whenever Kalia of the Vast attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand on the battlefield, taps and attacking an opponent. There's like 9 possible cards to cheat in, and only one is common. So I had it as like a D, whatever, just based on that. It's gonna be like it's like a 2/2 flyer that like maybe you threaten them, like they think it's really scary or whatever. It's probably not gonna like do fun. Of course, if you have like the mythic and rare angels and demon dragons or whatever, knock yourself out, I guess. I don't know. All right, and then medallions. Uh, I'm not super high on these because I think you need to be playing like a deck that's like heavily slanted towards the color of the medallion. Like there's one medallion for each type or whatever, and it's like um I had them written as a D because I don't know, like maybe if you're playing like near like if you're playing 13 or more cards of like specific color, like you're fine with like spending a mana just to spending 2 mana a card just to like ramp that out. I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, these medallions could potentially result in some really broken turns, like if you're like because they scale really well with like cheaper spells. If you're casting multiple spells in a turn, it's kind of nuts. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not like really sold on that idea. All right, Junk Diver, 3 artifact creature bird flying. When Junk Diver dies, return another target artifact card from graveyard to your hand. 1/1. This is like somewhat similar to, I think it was like, um, not Corpse Keeper or whatever. Like now I can't remember what the name of it. But it was like the 1/1 flyer. It's like a Gravedigger basically, but like this has to die, which makes it like worse. But there's actually like a lot of like artifact targets that you can get back with this, like artifact creatures that would like die normally, and then you can get them back. But I had it like a C. It might be really like a C minus. Alright, Urza's Incubator. 3 generic artifact. When Urza's Incubator enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. 2 generic less to cast. I guess good for like your Eldrazi tribal deck, but it also works for the opponent. I put it as a D. Right, Worn Power Stone, 3 generic artifact. Worn Power Stone enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add to colorless. I mean, this is going to be a good card in your Eldrazi ramp deck because it adds 2 colorless. Makes it more likely you're gonna cast your 7 drops. I put it as a C plus. Alright, Barbarian Ring, lands, tap, add red. Barbarian Ring deals 1 damage to you. Threshold, red, sacrifice Barbarian Ring, it deals 2 damage to any target. I don't think that this is worth dealing like 4 to 5 damage to you over a game for like the possibility that you can shock later. But maybe if like a ton of mill, it'll be good, so I put it as a D. Right. Cephalid Coliseum, land, add blue. Cephalid Coliseum deals 1 damage to you. Threshold, blue, tap, sacrifice Cephalid Coliseum. Target player draws 3 cards. Again, I think this is more of like a legacy constructed card than it is really intended for like. I guess you could go in modern whenever that comes out, but like I also put it as like a D, but again, maybe there's like some scenario someone goes like, oh, well, I'm going to draw this when I have 2 lands in hand and then draw 3 cards and one of them is a land and I discard my 3 lands and then it feels really great. But again, I don't know. Deserted Temple, land, tap, add colorless, 1 tap, untap target land. I guess you can use this as like a really convoluted way to get like a double color, like at the cost of paying 2, but I think you just should probably avoid playing this unless you just need waste. For the D minus. Nesting grounds, land, tap, add colors. 1 move the counter from target permanent you control onto another target permanent. Activate only the sorcery. Okay, so I put this as like a C minus. Like it is sorcery only. There might be like some shenanigans where like you're moving counters from like 1 permanent. Like you're moving your +1/+1 counters off your adapt creature so you can adapt again. It's very slow and clunky to do that, but maybe it'll come up. You can only do it as a sorcery, so you can't do it in response to like removal or anything like that. I don't know. Might be really more like a D plus. But yeah, you probably should just leave this to like people playing EDH. And then Pyrexian Tower, Legendary Land, tap, add colorless, tap, sacrifice a creature, add 2 black. It's like good with like Eldrazi spawn because you can turn your Eldrazi spawn into 2 mana. There is obviously the cost that you're playing like a land that's going to be like colorless if you don't have anything to like sack to it. But I mean, I think it's like worth to like play it as like a C, sorry, as a D plus or whatever. Like I just think like you have to be like really careful about playing lands that only add colorless. Even though yes, this can sometimes this can add black if you sack a creature, but like there is like a cost associated with like playing lands that add colorless. All right, so let's go over quickly special guest cards that haven't like really ended. Or the special guest. Hmm. Okay, so there's actually only 11 because it repeated Solitude and Subtlety in the Oak cycle twice. Thought Not Seer, 3 generic and a colorless creature Eldrazi. When Thought Not Seer enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile a card. When Thought Not Seer leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. I mean, this was like a modern staple for a really long time. Like in limited, it's still pretty annoying to play against because like you get to, you know, you get to, it's like free Thoughtseize on a 4/4. Yes, if it dies, they get the card back, but most of the time you're assuming that like the Thoughtseize was like the card that you took from them was better than the card they draw off of the leave the battlefield. Like the downside obviously is if you play it late game and they have no cards in their hand or they just have all land in their hand, and then you basically play the 4/4 that like they can kill and get a card back from it. But I mean, it's still like a reasonably good body. Even I think even like late game to like just have like a 4/4 on top of your deck. Like maybe you're like okay with like them killing it, getting a card. So and you do need to have colors mana to be able to cast it. But I'm willing. I think I would put it as like even with like the magic being like higher power level now, I'd put it like a B. Yes, I guess. Right, prismatic ending X and white sorcery converge. Exile target non-land permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast a spell. I mean, this was in Modern Horizons 2. It was like reasonable. Like it's like in a 2-color deck, it's only going to hit, you know, a mana value 2 permanent. You really want to be playing like the value of this card goes up as you have like more colors or access to more colors. So it's like if you can hit like 3 or 4, or even like 5 drops of it, it feels better. I mean, the thing is, you're also like spending more mana to get rid of it, so it's not like insanely efficient. But the fact that it can exile like a troublesome artifact or enchantment because it says non-land permanent, like the flexibility like makes up for the fact that like you're not necessarily like going up on you're spending the exact typically the exact same amount of mana that you spent to like them for them to play the card or whatever. So oops, yeah, I put that as a C plus. And then dismember what member? A 1 generic 2 Pyrexian black mana instant. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. I mean, this is just good because you know, like you can play it for like 1 mana -5/-5, and you have to pay 4 life. It's like obviously good because like it's like a good first pick in draft too, because like you can play it and then you're like comfortable. It's like, oh, I can just play it in like any deck or whatever. It's not like it's not like I can not play it or whatever. There's obviously some. It would be better if you play it in black, so at least you have the option of like not paying the life sometimes. You know, like maybe if you're like low on life, you'd rather play like the one double black to do it or whatever. I mean, it's gonna kill like a lot of creatures, so I'd put it as like a B. Alright, persists 1 in the black sorcery. Return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with -1/-1 counter on it. Uh, I mean, this is like dependent on how many like cycling creatures you have. Like you know what I mean? It's like you don't really want to play it on like your 3 drop or whatever because like it's gonna be like worse or whatever, and you're not really getting like up in the value of mana. I mean, the fact that it only costs 2 mana is kind of a big deal. It can only target non-legendaries. You're not like getting your busted legendary guy back, but I had like victimize the B minus. I'm willing to put this as like a C or whatever. Yeah, I put it as like a C. Could actually be better, but be like a C plus. But I think. Alright, expressive iteration, blue and a red sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them in your hand, one in the bottom of your library, and exile one of them. You may play the exile card this turn. So, like, the typical play pattern with this is that you play it on turn 3, and you exile a land, and you exile a land, and then you play the exiled land as your exile card, and then you put, like, your spell into your hand, and you put, like, the other thing. This is definitely better if your curve is like lower, because like there will be times like you don't actually hit a land in your top 3, and then you really want to be able to like play expressive iteration and be able to like play an exiled spell off the top of your deck. So like this is really more of like a modern card where like your curve is like really low, so you can maybe like mitigate the don't hit a land in your top 3. So I mean, this was also in like Strixhaven, and the same caveats like happened there or whatever. So I put it as like a C, like average limit deck, because your curve may be a little bit high. But Solitude, 3 and double white creature elemental incarnation. Flash lifelink. When Solitude enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Evoke, exile a white card from your hand. So evoke means um when you do this, like exile a white card from your hand, you don't have to pay like this is how, you don't have to pay like the mana cost up here. You just exile a white card from your hand, but then when it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice it. So this is pretty good in limited. I think this is like one of the better incarnations in like limited. It's not a bomb in of itself, but it's just like very like efficient or whatever. And I can actually see like situations where you do pay like the evoke cost in limited, like maybe wants to like a combat trick or like a fight spell, then it doesn't feel as bad because you're basically 2-for-1ing yourself. And then if you ever hit like 5 mana and then you like flash this in at the end of your opponent's turn and you exile their best creature and get a 3/2 lifelink, it's pretty good. Also, like you put like bestow on it or make it even bigger. It's nuts. All right, subtlety. 2 generic and 2 blue. This is like less good. I think this is like most of the time you're not going to evoke this. Sorry, so this flash flying. When subtly enter the battlefield, choose up to one target creature spell or planeswalker spell. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of the library. Evoke, exile, blue card from your hand. Like, I don't think you're going to be evoking this most of the time. You're just going to play it as a 4 mana 3/3 flash flyer in response to your opponent's creature spell, and then like you tempo them out a little bit and you have a flyer. So I mean, I think that's like a good play pattern, but like sometimes maybe you just flash it in as like a 3/3 and then you just like start attacking them with it. It's like fine too. So let's put it as a B minus for now. In Grief, 2 generic black creature elemental card Menace. When Grief enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards a card. Evoke, exile black card from your hand. So there's no like feign death or not dead after all or whatever to like combo with this, which is good. Um, Again, you probably shouldn't be like evoking this because like if you evoke at like turn 1 or whatever, it's like okay, use 2 cards like Thoughtseize for free. That doesn't seem like very appealing. But you play it on turn 4. You take their card, it's a clean 2-for-1, and then you bestow it or whatever, and then it's really annoying because of menace. Let's put it as a B. And then Fury, 3 generic, 2 red, creature elemental incarnation. Double strike, when Fury enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and their planeswalkers. Evoke, exile a red card from your hand. 3/3. I mean, it's a pretty quick clock when you play it. It might be like reasonable to like evoke this sometimes. Like they have like 2/2/2s or something like that. You kill both, and then you didn't spend any mana on it. Like you're down 2 cards, but like they're also down 2 cards, and like you didn't spend mana on it. Um, it's also like I said, it's good with bestow or whatever because double strike is really good with like any kind of like power pump or. So I'm willing to put it also like I think it depends. I played Fury before in what is happening, but I played Fury before in like Modern Horizons 2, and like it was kind of like yeah good sometimes. I'll just put it as a B, but sometimes it doesn't actually it won't actually kill anything. Like your opponent's creature is bigger or something. Oh, but I don't put it as a B plus. But Endurance, 1 generic, 2 green, creature elemental incarnation, flash reach. When Endurance enters the battlefield, up to 1 target player puts all cards from the graveyard on the bottom of the library in a random order. Evoke, exile green cards from your hand. Most of the time, this is just like a 3 mana, 3/4 flash. You're not going to like evoke this in like limited. Maybe if like they were playing Buried Alive, like they want to animate. This can do fonts, but it's mostly just going to be flashing it in. And I mean, the thing is, it only costs 3 mana, so it's not too expensive to just like flash it in. There's a good chance like you flash it in, it eats like their flyer. I mean, I guess subtlety can also eat flyers too, but the fact that this is a 3/4. I mean, more likely creatures when it enters the battlefield, and then yeah, the ETB is like pretty relevant, like the animation stuff. I'll put it as a B minus.